Welcome back to the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day listening to who? The always charismatic host of this podcast, Millard Thomas. I'm a multimedia journalist and I'm a graphic designer, so please go check out my website, millardthomas24.myportfolio.com. On there you can see all my latest work, from my packages to my articles to my photos and my graphic design. For today's show, we are doing part 3, stock up, stock down for D-backs pitchers mostly today, because we finished the position players on yesterday's pod, part 2. So go check out that podcast if you missed it. Of course, if you want to follow more content by me and stay up to date with all the latest news surrounding me, I guess, or if you want to see more D-backs content that's not on this podcast, just follow me on Twitter at CreatorThomas24 for my personal account, or just look up the Locked On Diamondbacks account on both Twitter and Instagram. I'm sure you can find it if you look it up in that little search engine bar that they have on Twitter and Instagram. But before we hop in today's pod, I first got to say thank you for making Locked On Diamondbacks your first listen every day. I cannot do this podcast without you, because you are the listener, sharing, subscribing, listening, reviewing this podcast. So thank you. You do all the dirty work so I can do this podcast for you. So I really appreciate it. And of course, happy Thanksgiving to all the listeners out there. There will be no Friday episode. As a reminder, I'm taking a day to myself because every now and then we need to relax. So there will be no Friday episode, but we still got this Thanksgiving episode for all of you guys. So let's jump right into the podcast. Stock up, stock down, part 3.
You are Locked On Diamondbacks, your daily Arizona Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Millard Thomas of Locked On Diamondbacks still here. And let's jump right into it. And I first want to start off with Brett Gauss. Hope I didn't say his name wrong, but stock down is for him, unfortunately. Stock down for Gauss because this is someone who was picked up off waivers from the Rangers during the season, and it wasn't like he really was that good for the D-backs this past season. He had an 8.44 ERA on the Rangers, and the D-backs were like, we need to pick this guy up. This guy needs to be coming out of our bullpen, and that's what they did. He actually improved when he got to the D-backs. That ERA went from 8.44, and during his time with D-backs uniform, he pitched to a 6.56 ERA, so way better than an 8.44. Just bad numbers across the board. His overall numbers on the season, 7.56 ERA, 5.07 FIP, 11 hits per 9 innings, 3.08 average against, 8.78 OPS allowed. He's still only 24 years old, but I didn't see what I liked from. I didn't see anything from him that I liked in 2021. So because of that, Brett Gauss, your stock is down after this season, because I'm not sure you should be pitching for this D-backs team who's in desperate need of bullpen arms. I think they should probably go in a different direction, but he's still young, so maybe that gives a little credence to him coming back next season. With this new pitching coach, you can make the argument that you should just bring back all the pitchers because he has the magic elixir for turning guys into superstars. And maybe Brett Gauss one day can be that guy, but I'm pretty low on Brett Gauss right now. Next up, we got Luis Frias, who is the 13th best prospect in the organization, according to MLB.com right now. He only had 5 walks in 3.1 innings pitched, which isn't great. He allowed 5 walks, only pitched 3.1 innings, so that's more than a walk an inning, but he only gave up 1 earned run. We didn't see him a ton on the major league level this past season. And minor league numbers weren't great either. So you're asking me, why is this guy stock up? Even though his minor league numbers weren't that good, he walked more than 1 guy per inning. Why should we think this guy is good at all? Well, it's because he started the season in high A. He finished in triple A, and of course had a cup of coffee on the major league level as well. So because of the trajectory, I'm saying his stock is up, not even because of specifically how he performed in 2021, but his trajectory is up. If you go from high A to the major leagues in one season, the organization must like you a lot. So he was able to do that. He's still only 23 years old. He's got an upper 90s fastball, a 90-mile-an-hour changeup. This guy could be a weapon out of the bullpen, which the D-backs need. So right now, the stock is up for Luis Frias, even though he didn't have a great 2021 season. Next up, I got Joe Mantipoli, whose stock is up as well, despite the 292 average allowed and 806 OPS allowed, which I know doesn't sound that pretty. He had a double-digit hits per nine, or excuse me. Let me repeat that. So despite the 292 average allowed and 806 OPS allowed, you say those numbers are pretty bad. He also had a double digit hits per nine and a walk percentage at almost 10%. So you're asking me, how is this guy's stock up too? He gave up a terrible average, a terrible OPS. He gave up a ton of hits per 9 innings. His walk percentage was pretty high. Why is his stock up according to you, Millard Thomas? Well, it's because he didn't allow a lot of runs. Even though he did all of that, bad OPS, average hits per nine, walks, even though he did all that, he still was good at preventing runs. 3.4 ERA, and his FIP was below 3. So that's even indicating to you that he's really good at preventing runs, which is the most important stat in baseball. Doesn't matter if you give up a 300 average. It doesn't matter if you give up 3 doubles a game. If you don't allow the run to cross the home plate, that's all that matters. If you don't allow the run to cross home plate, not the home plate, but cross home plate, that's all that matters for pitchers. He appeared in 57 games, which is a pretty large sample size too. So it wasn't like it was a fluky 3.4 ERA. He pitched a lot for this D-backs team. So I'm hoping he can repeat his performance in 2022 because the D-backs are probably going to need it. And then the last guy I want to talk about is Tyler Gilbert, whose stock is up as well. Of course, he threw a no-hitter. You really don't have to say much after that. He threw a no-hitter in his first career start against the San Diego Padres, one of the nemesis of the D-backs. So there's not much more that needs to be said, but yeah, considering we're playing a little stock up, stock down, I'll give a little bit more insight as to why his stock is up, because this guy should automatically be given a rotation spot based off what he did this past season. But in all seriousness, he was pretty good at preventing runs too. And really, I don't think Tyler Gilbert's gonna be an elite level pitcher for the D-backs. I don't see Tyler Gilbert as a frontline starter for this D-backs team, but he still had a 3.15 ERA, a 6.12 OPS allowed, an 86.7 mile an hour exit velocity. His ground ball percentage was 10% higher than his fly ball percentage. He's only going to be 28 years old, so this guy could still be getting better. And he's going to be a ground ball pitcher, which is usually an effective kind of guy. Not really made for modern baseball, but ground ball pitchers, they're just fine. They're not going to be striking out people. Every now and then they might make a mistake pitch and give up a home run, but they usually are pretty good at not walking a lot of dudes and pitching to weak contact, which Tyler Gilbert was pretty good at. I like Tyler Gilbert a lot. He's got a soft spot in my heart because of what he did to the Padres this past season. But in all seriousness, I don't think he should be given a rotation spot because of it. If the D-backs want to make him battle out for the 5th spot in the rotation next year in spring training, I'm all for it. Tyler Gilbert was one of the better pitchers the D-backs brought up from the minor league season to make these spot starts or come out the bullpen and be a long reliever. Whatever the situation was, Tyler Gilbert was actually pretty good in that. He was one of the better D-backs pitchers when it came to preventing runs this season, which was hard to find because D-backs pitchers love to give up hard contact. Tyler Gilbert was one of the few pitchers that didn't prevent a lot of runs, didn't put a lot of dudes on the bases, and had a lot of ground balls to get those easy outs for the defense. So I'm pro Tyler Gilbert for now. I don't think he's going to be some superstar pitcher. I'm not even sure if he's going to be a long-term option in this D-backs clubhouse, but right now his stock should be up entering the 2022 season. Now we'll do some more stock up, stock down, but this episode is brought to you by Built Bar. It's the most wonderful time of the year, Black Friday, but Built is going all out to make this Black Friday weekend the most delicious Black Friday that ever was in the history of Black Fridays. New limited time flavors, new types of bars, and a winter wonderland of a deal. You want high-end deliciousness at a discount? All through Black Friday weekend, get at least 20% off anything and everything at Built.com. Enter promo code LOCKED20. You got new flavor, Ruby Chocolate Puffs. Those just sound delicious. You got new flavor, lemon dipped cheesecake puffs. That sounds delicious. New Built Bar as well in terms of the Crave Bar is absolutely new. So many new things at Built Bar. So many delicious things at Built Bar. 20% off Built Bars and 2 free Crave Bars all at Built.com when you make a purchase. Plus you can get 60% off Built.com and Built Boost and 40% off Built swag. Just enter code LOCKED20 at built.com. Admittedly, that wasn't my best ad read. I should have read the ad read before going live on YouTube for a stream. Usually, these ad reads don't change. I didn't anticipate a Black Friday new ad read for Built Bar, so I apologize if I sounded like I butchered that a little bit. I should have been more proactive and read that before going live on that one. So that is an L for me. But we are here to talk about stock up, stock down. So let's move on and let's not dwindle on my failures as a live ad read host. And let's continue on stock up, stock down, because the next man is someone who all of us love this man. I don't think anyone who's the D-backs fan is not a fan of this guy because it is Zach Gallen. How can you not be a huge fan of Zach Gallen as a Diamondbacks fan? But the thing is, I believe his stock is down entering next season. And it's not because I don't believe in the player of what a Zach Gallen is. I don't believe of what Zach Gallen can become because we've already seen him be a frontline starter for the D-backs squad. We've already seen him be a Cy Young level pitcher. But if we're doing this stock up, stock down exercise based off what they did in the 2021 season, we have to say his stock is down after last year. He just didn't look like the same guy. Now, his numbers were still pretty close to what he did the past 2 years when you look at his advanced metrics, but his traditional numbers, you can't deny. His ERA rose to a 4.3. It was like a 2.9 the year before. I mostly think it's because he gave up more hard contact in 2021. Hard hit percentage allowed was over 40% for the first time. His exit velocity was 2 miles an hour higher than any other season before. So I do think a bounce back season is in store for Zach Gallen because, of course, like I've said for a lot of these guys, in case you didn't hear, the D-backs have hired a new pitching coach, Brent Strom, and maybe I'm putting too many eggs into the Brent Strom basket, but at least for guys like Zach Gallen, who we know have the talent and at least have a mini track record, at least in a D-backs uniform, of consistent excellence, there's no reason why Brent Strom shouldn't be able to unlock a Gallen even further and really take his career to the next level. If Gallen can stay healthy and get back to where he was in 2019, 2020, this guy will potentially win a Cy Young award in his career. I don't want to say will win because it's tough to win one, but I definitely think he will be at least in the conversation for the next few years. And a Brent Strom can only help elevate his game. His stock might be down right now entering next season, but I'm pretty sure by the end of the 2022 season, his stock will be going right back up. And guess what? This is the time to buy the dip. His stock is down. Go buy as much Zach Gallen stock as you can because it will be going back up like Bitcoin. So I'm not selling my Zach Gallen stock, even though it might be a little down right now. Now, next up, we got Berto Mejia, whose stock is unfortunately down, acquired in the Starling Marte trade. Mejia just hasn't shown enough for me on the major league level, and was his second season on the major league level. A 7.25 ERA, 5.5 FIP, 340 average allowed, 1090 OPS allowed, 5 home runs given up in just 22 innings pitched. His exit velocity for his career is 90.2 miles per hour. That is way too hard. Over 90 miles per hour for his career. His 5.12 ERA, over 100 innings pitched in the minors this past year, doesn't give you any confidence that maybe he's at least a guy who just struggles when he gets to the major league level. Maybe he's one of those quadruple A guys. No, he didn't look good in AAA, and then he didn't look good either on the major league level. He's still only 24 years old, but Mejia definitely has some flaws in his game, and considering we gave up Starling Marte for this guy, not exactly for this guy. It was a package the D-backs got back. They got back a Caleb Smith with a Mejia. And right now, you're looking at that deal. You're like, Starling Marte has one of the hottest markets this offseason in free agency. And you got back a Caleb Smith? Listen, Caleb Smith was a very fine reliever, but I'm not giving up Starling Marte for that guy or Mejia, who has not shown enough to this point. Mejia is ranked 30th in the organization, I think last year he was ranked 30th in the organization. I don't think he's ranked right now. So Mejia, he needs to show more for the D-backs. He needs to show more to the D-backs, I guess is a better way to phrase that, because he did not show enough in 2021. So right now, Mejia, your stock is down entering next season. Next up, this is another one of those guys who's like, when you think of like my favorite players, I guess, or guys who had high expectations, guys who I had high expectations for entering this past season who just didn't live up to expectations, this guy, you have to say his stock is down. That is Corbin Martin, who bamboozled us like a JB Perskakis after spring training. I thought this guy was going to be a stud for the D-backs as a potential starter, maybe rotation guy out the bullpen, or not rotation guy, reliever out the bullpen, not rotation guy, but it didn't happen. I still love the talent of a Corbin Martin, but he was just absolutely crushed in 2021. 19 earned runs in just 16 innings pitched, 5 home runs allowed, 14 walks allowed, 13 strikeouts. So he had more walks than strikeouts, 338 average and 1114 OPS allowed. Those numbers are just terrible across the board. Fastball was crushed too, 892 slugging percentage against his fastball. But like a lot of these pitchers, at least I'm hoping he can work with Brent Strom and get better, because unlike the other pitchers, at least Corbin Martin is at least a little familiar with Brent Strom going back to their days in Houston, because don't forget, Corbin Martin was acquired in that Zach Greinke trade with the Houston Astros. So he should have at least a little familiarity with Strom, because he did make his major league debut with the Astros, now with the D-backs. So Strom was at least able to work with him a little bit. But so far, this whole segment 2, Zach Allen stock down, Mejia stock down, Corbin Martin stock down. The stock is down for all 3 of those guys, but Mejia is really the only one who I'm just not totally into or totally believe in. Zach Allen, of course, that's my guy. That's my man right there. There's no doubt in my mind Zach Allen will have a bounce back season next year. Corbin Martin, I don't know if he's going to have bounce back season, but I'm still willing to bet on the talent right now for at least the short-term future, until if he still pitches like this next season and the season after that, then yeah, I'm going to hop off the bandwagon. But for at least one more year, even though his stock is down, I'm on the Corbin Martin bandwagon for next season. But those 3 guys' stocks are definitely down after this 2021 season. Now we'll wrap up the pod with the stock up, stock down, but this episode is brought to you by BetOnline. It's Thanksgiving, and we all know what that means. Football. And nothing goes better with football than turkey and betting. BetOnline has you covered for all the holiday season. More props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all the sports action this Thanksgiving. Head to our new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus with promo code LOCKEDON to receive your bonus. And it's just not football. BetOnline has pro and college hoops, NHL, boxing, UFC, even your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, we're stuffed with deals this Thanksgiving. All right. Let's get back into the pod and let's wrap up, stock down on the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast. And the first man on the list is someone who is kind of a godsend for the D-backs this past season. That is Noah Ramirez, whose stock has to be up after this past year, because the D-backs somehow lucked their way into a back-end reliever on a cheap deal that actually worked out. They picked this dude up off waivers, and he was no Brett DeGauss. This guy actually has a track record of at least being pretty good in the major leagues, and he was pretty good when he got to the D-backs. A 2.76 ERA, a .88 whip. I'll repeat that, .88 below 1 as a whip, 479 OPS allowed, 22% strikeout percentage. He's been up and down as a player throughout his career, but when he's up, when he's on, he's really on. He's usually really good. Another player who needs to carry over his 2021 performance to 2022, because the drum I've been beating, that we've all been beating, is that this bullpen is terrible. So the D-backs are going to kind of need Noah Ramirez to be good again next season. And the thing with Ramirez is kind of like the Giants in the 2010s. Like, it seems like every other year he's good. He's kind of like Josh Beckett's. Like, in the even years, Noah Ramirez is good. In the odd years, maybe not. I'm not even sure if it's vice versa or not, but it feels like every other year Noah Ramirez is good, and then every other year he's not. But when you look at his profile, he's going to be able to fit right in this D-backs bullpen, in this D-backs pitching staff, because like every other D-backs pitcher almost, He throws a below 90-mile-an-hour fastball, which all these D-backs pitchers love to do. We don't have a lot of hard throwing power pitchers, and Noah Ramirez is definitely one of those guys that's not a power pitcher either. He's definitely pitching to contact, and he's definitely pitching to ground balls. And if he can keep his ground ball rate around 33% entering next season, I think that would be just fine. I think his numbers will end up being pretty good if he's able to do that. So right now, Noah Ramirez, your stock is up because the D-backs got you for nothing, and you pitched like an all-star for this team in the second half of the season. So your stock is all the way through the roof, Ramirez. Next up is someone who I actually like a lot. That is Meryl Kelly. And his stock is up too, I believe, because you might disagree because Meryl Kelly, he still had an ERA in like the mid fours. But when you compare Meryl Kelly to the rest of the rotation starters, I honestly believe he was the most consistent pitcher all year for the D-backs. Went deep into ball games. That was kind of the MO of Merrill Kelly. That was maybe his identity as a pitcher this year. It doesn't matter if he gave up 3 earned runs, 2 earned runs, or 5 earned runs. Merrill Kelly was pitching deep into the ball game. Only less than 5 innings pitched in 3 starts the entire season. 6 or more innings pitched in 16 of his 27 starts. So this guy went deep into ball games, only gave up more than 4 earned runs 5 times. So this guy was never really crushing you. Of course, he had a couple games we gave up 5 earned runs or 6 earned runs, but it felt like overall he never really crushed you. You never got a ton of those 5 or 6 earned run performances. He was usually around 2 to 4 earned runs allowed, which is just good enough for Merrill Kelly. Ground ball percentage was at 43%, which is really good. If your ground ball percentage is above 40%, that's pretty great. If he continues to put players on the bases, or if he can continue to not put players on the bases and can limit the home runs, he's going to be a pretty good back-end starter for the D-backs next season. He was really good at not allowing walks last year. It went up a little bit in 2021, but overall, his walking numbers were still pretty good. It was really the home runs. He gave up more home runs than I even realized. I would probably want to see that department come down a little bit because when you're a ground ball pitcher, you're usually not throwing that hard, and if you make a mistake, it's just a lot easier for the batter to go yard against you. So Merrill Kelly battled back from that surgery in the offseason, dominant 2020, came back in 2021, started the season pretty slow, didn't have the best first month, but then got into a groove. After that, was really strong in the middle months of the season, had a little streak where he was really good. I picked him up in fantasy. He was carrying my pitching staff in fantasy for a little bit. So overall, I really like Merrill Kelly. I think he's probably an underrated pitcher. Some people try to tell me he's not very good. I think Merrill Kelly's solid. Is he an elite pitcher? Is he a frontline starter? No. But can he be a 4 or 5 starter in someone's playoff rotation that makes the wild card or does even better than that? I definitely think so. So Merrill Kelly, your stock is up for me entering next season. And then the last guy I want to talk about, who is kind of, I don't want to destroy this guy like I've done with some of the other guys whose stock is down, but Matt Peacock. And the reason I don't want to do it is because Matt Peacock has just a pretty great story. He took some time off in college after injury to go work on his uncle's sawmill. Then he returned back to college, had a pretty good season, got drafted by the D-backs, and the rest is history. But the sad thing is for Matt Peacock, I'm not sure if he's a good pitcher. 86 innings pitched in 2021, 4.9 ERA, 4.98 FIP, 156 whip, 304 average allowed, 848 OPS allowed, and only a 13% strikeout rate. Just not good enough numbers for Matt Peacock across the board. His first month was pretty damn good. Matt Peacock looked legit that first month, but then it all kind of fell apart. ERA was above 5.5 as a starter, and it was above 4.5 as a reliever. So it wasn't even like a Caleb Smith when you were like, okay, Caleb Smith is bad as a starter, but as a reliever, this guy definitely has something there, definitely has some potential. I couldn't say that about Matt Peacock. He just wasn't very good in high leverage moments and just got crushed a lot of the times, gave up a lot of hard contact. His hard hit percentage was at 46.7% in 2021. Just gave up too much hard contact. Another one of those guys that's going to be 28 years old. So the supposed prime of his career. So this is a make or break time with Matt Peacock. I didn't like what I saw in 2021. D-backs might give him another chance in 2022. But right now, entering next year, I think his stock has to be down. Now that's it for this edition of the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast. Thank you everyone for making Locked On Diamondbacks your first listen every day. I cannot do this podcast without you. So thank you. It's free and available on all platforms. Of course, have a very, happy Thanksgiving. Hope you guys enjoy your holidays. Hope you guys stuff yourself with turkeys like a Built Bar. Stuff yourself with Built Bars if you guys want to do that. Come back next week because there's no Friday episode. So come back next week on the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast for more Diamondbacks news, coverage, and insight. And of course, as always, stay safe and stay healthy. Deuces.